What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we've got yet another massive info-packed video with new details about Season of the Drifter coming next week to Destiny 2. So we're going to speak about the Derelict, a new tower location, the new title for the DLC, but on top of this we have a massive breakdown of how perks and upgrades work for the new Prime Armor Synths and how those are going to work. We'll explain that in a moment. We do have extra details on some of the new perks, rewards and progression in the new game modes that we're going to see. On top of this we get further information about the allegiance quests and choosing a side, how all of that is going to work. It looks like it's going to be pretty important actually. A massive new 9 quest line that will take many weeks to complete. Details about new PvP mechanics, new loot, and a bunch of other stuff to talk about in this video guys. So as always, if you enjoyed this one, a rating very much helps me out below. But otherwise, let's get right into it. So the first thing I wanted to talk about would be the director for new content that we'll get in Season of the Drifter. One of the new locations that we've actually seen would be inside of the Derelict, and this is the Drifter's mysterious ship. We can see some images of the interior of the Drifter's ship right here from the press kit, and we've also seen a bunch of different cutscenes that take place here too, so definitely it's going to be pretty important to the story content that will be delivered in Season of the Drifter. And it seems likely that the location right here will also be linked pretty closely to the Alliance quests, which we have further details on in a moment. We can see the updated director on the map for Gambit, so it looks like we've got traditional Gambit on the left, Gambit Prime in the bottom middle, private matches on the right hand side, and then the Reckoning mode housed at the top. So pretty cool update to the director right there. On top of this though, there is going to be a new location in the tower which is unlocked. This is one we actually glitched into a little while ago, but it's an area in the annex that houses a moat bank, and we see the Drifter in this location inside some cinematics as well. So it looks like this area will open up in the tower, and this will be the Drifter's more permanent location. And there was a pretty cool interview between Fireteam Chat and Bungie, and I'll link it down below if you want to check it out, but we actually get a bunch of further insights and details about how a lot of content is going to work. They did confirm that there will be a new seal and title in Season of the Drifter. However, they don't want to give us the name or any of the requirements for that title, so we'll have to see what it is. They do, however, talk about Gambit Prime and the rewards for this in quite a bit more depth. So they do confirm that in Gambit Prime, power levels will work the same as they do in normal Gambit. So essentially, power level only really matters for invasions, and on the PvE side of that mode, power will be normalized for all players. Of course, we've seen the juicy new armor that we're going to get, and interestingly, the specific perks that make up these kind of gear sets will not be tied to the armor, but to the tier of the armor itself. And if you wear enough pieces of the set, you will basically unlock the set bonus, or what Bungie are calling a pinnacle perk. On top of this though, there will also be lower tier perks, and these will actually be able to be mixed and matched between different sets. So that's pretty interesting. Cosmo did confirm as well that we will get to choose which armor sets we pursue, and that we can switch up these sets on the fly. So when you're loading into a Gambit match or when you're in the middle of a Gambit match, you can actually change the armor pieces up, and of course that's going to affect the bonuses. Now importantly, we are getting these pinnacle bonuses, as well as lower tier Gambit or Prime specific bonuses. And inside of the interview, we got a bit more of an idea of how some of them are going to work. So the Pinnacle Collector perk will actually let you take 20 motes at a time, and 20 motes is going to summon a new, even bigger blocker than what we've seen in the past. Obviously, there may be some conversation about how it's a terrible idea to carry 20 motes around. However, this game mode is quite a bit faster paced than normal Gambit. The stakes are higher, and there are all of these different kind of roles present, so there absolutely are going to be times where you'll want to bank 20 motes. It's going to be an important part of the game. But the Pinnacle Invader set will come with a perk that makes you a blocker. So if you're an invader, you'll actually lock the bank when you invade the enemy team. So presumably, whenever you're in the enemy arena, their bank is going to close down. However, if you're an invader and you stand near to the enemy bank, it's actually going to begin draining motes that the enemy team have put into that bank. And that's pretty crazy stuff. They do confirm that robbing motes or stealing motes from the enemy team is specific to the Gambit Prime mode and not normal Gambit. On top of this though, if 2 blockers are spawned onto your bank in this new mode, you will start losing motes automatically. And this is why the Sentry build, or the Sentry set, is going to be pretty important as well. So just a bit of an idea of some of those pinnacle bonuses. Like I said though, we are going to have the ability to mix and match a little bit here, which is pretty cool, and it sounds like there could be quite a bit of depth to this system. Now considering we get these new bonuses, you may be wondering, will these armor pieces have normal armor bonuses as well? And yes, they will, which is absolutely fantastic. So once you've unlocked this armor, of course the pinnacle bonuses will only work in Gambit Prime. However, the armor pieces will have standard mod slots and standard randomly rolled bonuses, so these armor pieces will be as useful as any other legendary armor everywhere else in the game, so that's fantastic news. They do confirm, however, that the aura glows will only be present if you have the Pinnacle perk unlocked on that gear. So pretty interesting stuff. Let me know your thoughts about that. But they talk more about the Reckoning. This is the purely PvE mode that we'll be getting. And this is actually how we'll unlock those armor pieces. So they say, playing Gambit Prime will get you an item called Synths. These are going to be Prime Armor Synths. And we get a bit of a loose description right here. Last back and said, essentially, you put the Synths that you get from Gambit Prime into a portable bank that the Drifter gives to you. And this will create a moat that you can then take into the Reckoning mode. Once you're in the Reckoning mode, you put that moat into the bank, and from there you'll go into an encounter that if you complete successfully, will have a chance to drop that specific armor piece that you're working towards. So for example, you could get a Reaper Synth from Gambit Prime, you put that into the bank, it'll give you a moat that can be used kind of like a token inside of the Reckoning mode, and then if you successfully clear that level, you'll get a chance to get that specific Reaper armor piece dropped. It's a pretty intriguing kind of system on the whole here. They also confirm that Synths will drop continuously in the Prime mode, so essentially, you can farm as many of these out as you like, and then play the Reckoning as much as you want to get that gear dropped, so there aren't any lockouts from what we can tell. They do say though that this is going to be a pretty difficult mode, especially as new tiers unlock. There will be matchmaking for the mode, and there will be a set of rewards that will drop when you complete Reckoning game modes. You will, however, only get Gambit Prime Armor if you've put that synth into the bank when you start the round. So guys, that's an explanation of Gambit Prime, the Reckoning mode, the armor sets and how they kind of work. Definitely a very interesting ecosystem on the whole. I know not everyone is a massive fan of Gambit, but it does really appear that they've kind of fleshed out Gambit as an endgame activity right here, with some pretty solid progression and some pretty depthy mechanics with those armor pieces as well. Gambit Prime actually could be pretty intense. Nonetheless, I hope that's a good explanation based on what we know right now. Next though, let's speak about Invitations of the Nine. So Invitations of the Nine are the Xur bounties that Bungie spoke about and put on the roadmap a while ago. So they are absolutely still a thing, they just have a different name. And Invitations of the Nine will deliver a bunch of interesting rewards, but also a bunch of lore and story. So it will be a 9-week kind of long-term storytelling process. Every week that rolls around, Xur will have a new bounty, and you'll have to go find Xur and visit him every week to actually pick it up. And Bungie confirmed that there will not be a system in place if you kind of miss a week. So it works kind of like the Queen's Court. If you want to complete the kind of lore collection, get all of the possible rewards, and experience all of the story, you will have to visit Xur for 9 weeks in a row once this becomes available. Now initially when these were called Xur bounties, we anticipated that this was going to be kind of a fix for Xur. Obviously Bungie don't give us too many details about the rewards, so we will have to wait and see, but I'd imagine if they're going to go to the effort to kind of create all of these different bounties and flesh that stuff out with story, that there would also be pretty beneficial rewards as well. The hunt for Xur will definitely be a bit more interesting now. There is going to be another very interesting kind of quest system that comes in this update as well, and this would be the Allegiance quest. This will invite us to choose between the Vanguard and the Drifter, and once we've made that choice, we'll progress through a quest line from their perspective. Now in that interview, Bungie said your choice will follow your character throughout the entire season. It's a relatively straightforward questing system, but ultimately the Allegiance quest will lead us onto something that is somewhat significant, and the Bungie devs did say they don't want to give too much away. However, you will have to align yourself with either Vanguard or the Drifter per character, so folks who only have one character will not be able to see both perspectives of this, just something to bear in mind. Bungie said they wanted this to very much be a tough decision. We don't know what the reward is going to be here, you know? There's part of me that says, surely Bungie wouldn't, have these as like 2 exotic quests, and if you choose to go Vanguard, and you've only got one character, then you could never get the Drifter quest or something. But at the same time, if they want to raise the stakes and make things interesting, then of course they could potentially do that. So we'll have to see how this pans out. Bungie are giving us enough info to know that this is an intriguing system, but not enough info for us to actually really understand how we're going to be rewarded. I personally actually like the way that they've done this reveal. They've given us quite a bit of juice, but the bulk of the experience we're really going to have to discover and figure out for ourselves. So that breaks down the Reckoning, the Gambit Prime mode, the rewards, how that's going to work, as well as the invitations and the Allegiance quests coming over the next season. In the IGN interview, they did get a little bit of new information about an interesting new mechanic for the Iron Banner. So Lars Bakken said, in Iron Banner, players will be allowed to buff themselves by a certain power or decrease their power. You can do that up to -100. And if you choose to decrease it, that would be the Iron Burden. And when you play with this active, you'll get a higher cadence of rewards and maybe additional cosmetic drops as well. There'll also be an emblem that tracks the amount of kills that you've got while you're under the Iron Burden state. That's all they really said about it. Pretty loose explanation at the moment. It doesn't sound like this is a mechanic that players will be forced to use, but there will be some additional incentives for folks who, complete these matches with these different buffs and debuffs. They gave a little bit of additional explanation about Power Surge bounties. And of course, they are introducing these in direct response to community feedback over accessing content in the Black Armory. Of course, you'll remember that Bungie essentially locked the forges at a certain power level, and it meant you more or less had to be completely up to date, at least in terms of power level, immediately before that expansion dropped. However, this time around, completing 4 of these new power surge bounties will actually help you gear up towards 640 power in just a couple of hours maximum. And that means that you're going to fare much better in the new Reckoning mode, but also in Gambit Prime when it comes to invasions and stuff like that, and some of the quest content that we'll get in the season as well. They did confirm that the gear that will be dropping up to 640 from these bounties will primarily be blue gear, so it is literally designed just to get people up to a decent level so that they can start to move into this new endgame that we get in Season of the Drifter. The content required to complete the bounties will be split between different activities, strikes, crucible, and stuff like that. Now though, let's round up some additional bits of information that we've got from Bungie devs and community managers. Somebody asked, do you have to complete this stuff for Black Armory to access the Joker's Wild content? And Cosmo confirmed no. So if you didn't keep up to date with everything in Black Armory previous season, that won't affect you in this season. As long as you earn the annual pass, you can get into this new content. There was a question about previous pinnacle weapons like Breakneck and whether you can progress with this quest by completing the Reckoning mode, and Cosmo said it won't work in Reckoning, but in Gambit Prime matches it will count. So interestingly, some of the old kind of Gambit objectives quests can actually still be progressed in Gambit Prime, definitely not a bad thing. And Cosmo also confirmed Gambit Prime will become a permanent thing starting on the 5th of March. So just a few days away, we're getting straight into this content drop. No kind of weekly changeover like we've seen with previous seasons. It simply begins on Tuesday. And of course, we did get the roadmap with a more detailed breakdown of exactly when different content in this update will drop. I'll link videos about that down below if you want to check it out. But guys, that is going to summarize another pretty sizable update regarding Season of the Drifter. I do actually have a few more things to talk about that I'm trying to round up and get more details on right now. So if the new content is interesting you, then be sure to hit subscribe here on the channel. I'll have guides and everything breaking it down next week, as well as all the news and info that you need to know beforehand right here. If you have enjoyed this video though, a rating is very much appreciated down below. Let me know your thoughts on any of the stuff that we've covered in this video. Check out my friends over at Into the AM who have some really cool clothing, graphic shirts, hoodies, hats, bandanas, a bunch of different accessories, and you can save 10% in their store using code HOUTNISH if you like the look of any of that stuff. They've got some pretty high quality clothing if you want to check them out. But otherwise, thank you as always for tuning in, guys. All of the recent support has been amazing, and whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome day.